Hi, this is Becky with Icing on Top Becky's Cakes, and today I'm going to show you how to make this sugar vase. I use Simi Cakes silicone mold in order to put my sugar in and make this vase. So if you want to go to simicakes.com, you can get this mold, or I'm sure there's other places you can buy molds from, but I really like Simi Cakes. She's really got some amazing stuff. So this mold, it comes together like this. And then she even includes rubber bands, so you don't have to search around the house for that. So you just rubber band it in several different places to keep it together. You want it completely sealed so the sugar doesn't leak out. And if you notice what I have down here at the bottom, I have a silicone mat, and I even have my marble slab, my cutting board, just in case I spill any of the sugar. I don't want it on my nice table, so we're going to make sure that's protected too. And if you're wondering what kind of sugar I'm using, what my recipe is, it is on my channel under the pulled sugar recipe. It's the exact same one I use for pulling and blowing sugar or making sculptures. I use the same recipe for this. It's not at all hard. It is basically mostly sugar, a little bit of water, teeny tiny bit of vinegar, and some corn syrup, and that's the sugar recipe. We just boil it all up. It's important that we get it to a right temperature, but yeah, that's the one I use, so please check it out if you need that recipe. Now I want my vase to be a light blue color, so I'm going to take my sugar and I'm going to add a little bit, just a tiny drop of gel food coloring in this. And I'm not adding it until it's about 250 degrees, because if you add this gel food coloring when it's too hot, you're gonna get like a speckled look to it. You don't want speckles. No, just wait till it cools down to about 250. I think I only waited like 5 minutes for that to happen, because you also want this to still be liquid so you can pour it. So don't wait too long either. So I'm just mixing this all in there really good. And I used royal blue because I knew that the sugar itself has a slight yellow color to it. And if I wanted a turquoise type of blue vase that I was going for, I should use royal blue, because the little bit of yellow makes it a little more turquoise color. So that worked out good. I really like the color of this vase. So we mix that really good, and then we are going to just pour it into our mold. So we just want to fill this mold up all the way to the top. And the sugar recipe that's on my channel, it'll fill it up, no problem. So just fill the whole thing with that sugar. Now once it's filled up, we're going to wait 3 minutes, okay? So we're going to wait a little longer, let it cool a little bit more before we tip it over. That way it gives it a little more time to get some nice, to get a little thicker of a vase there. So then we're just gonna pour it directly back into our pot, straight down. Try to keep it as even as possible. If you kind of eyeball it, make sure that where it is emptying, that is emptying from the middle and not from one side more than the other side. So try to keep it even so that it's going straight down into the middle, and that makes sure that all your sugar is even all the way around. So just make sure when you're emptying it, it's going straight down. Once it's all empty, just flip it back over. I have kind of a bubble at the top. We're going to trim the top with our scissors. I'm going to pop that bubble first, and I'm going to very carefully trim around the top with a pair of scissors. And then I'm just going to let my vase sit and completely and totally cool before I even try to do anything with it and take it apart. We're gonna let it cool completely after we carefully take off the top with the scissors. Just trim this excess off, and then I'll show you how we're gonna do a little bit of cleanup later, because we want to add a fun little detailing around the top of our vase, and so we don't need to worry too much about what this part looks like. So once our vase is completely and totally cooled, then we will go ahead and take our rubber bands off. Then we're going to gently pry this apart. I'm going to get each end just take each end where the creases are, and I'm just gonna first loosen it each end before I pull the whole thing off. Yes, it looks like it was very sturdy. We waited long enough that the vase was thick enough, and that way it's not going to shatter, but we still want to be careful because we don't want to ruin all our work. And there's the big reveal. There is our beautiful vase. I'm really excited about how this turned out. I am very pleased that I used Sippy Cake's molds because she just really has really great quality that she uses, and I'm always finding something new that I like about them. So there's our vase. I love it. It looks like a real vase. Okay, now so for the cake project that I'm working on, I need there to be a hole at the bottom of my vase because I have to thread it through this metal rod. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a little mousse ring. I have mousse rings in all different sizes, and so I'm gonna use one that's small enough that it'll go on the bottom of this and yet still have enough room that it's still got enough support that it'll stand on its own. So that'll go right about here. And we're going to heat it up and press it in, and then we're going to pull it out, and that'll give us a little hole in the bottom that we can thread through our metal rod. So we're just going to heat this up with our blowtorch, and be careful. This gets very, very hot. In fact, using cotton gloves underneath your latex gloves would probably be a better idea than what I did, because yeah, I was like, ooh, hot, very hot. But it needs to be hot in order to make that hole nice and quick. You don't want to take it too long, and you don't want to melt or shatter the vase. So you want to press this in. You got to give it a little time to melt because the sugar around the outside is going to melt, and so you're just going to let that melt, press it in a little farther. And once it melts all the way, pull it back out, and then we will have our perfect little hole. Now we're going to slowly pull that out, and we do want to make sure we get it out before it completely cools, and then you're stuck with the metal ring inside your vase, and that's not good. So let's pull it out while it is still hot and has melted that bit of the vase. Then I'm just pressing down the rough edges while it's still warm with my gloves, and then it makes a perfect little hole, and that hole we can thread right down our metal rod. So we can do a little test to see what it'll look like once we get this down on a metal rod, and also it'll give us the right size to make sure we know where we're going to place the next cake circle. And yeah, so that'll work, but of course we want to add the stems and everything first, so we'll do that part in our next tutorial. But in this one we want to clean up the top of our vase, so I'm just using my blowtorch very, very lightly around the top. We're going to heat all the way around the top super lightly. We do not want to melt the whole vase. We only want a little bit on the top to be warm enough that we can press it down and make it into a cool shape on the top. Okay, then we're just going to use our fingers to just bend that backwards, make it look more like a vase, and it gives us a really cool glass vase look. And just kind kind of make it a little bit of a wavy pattern on top, and you can really do whatever you want with it at this point, but I just wanted it to look like a pretty traditional vase here. So there is our vase. It was super cool, and also it tastes like cotton candy if you've ever tasted this recipe. And so then in the next tutorial, I'll show you how to do all the cake that'll go on top and how to do the stems and everything. It's a lot of fun. This was a really fun cake to do. And thanks for watching this with me today, and please subscribe to my channel.